Hello, my name is Valerie and I'm one of the nurses for Anne Clark at Fertility First, and I'm going to show you how to do your Pregnyl 1500 unit injections. Pregnyl 1500 units comes in one box with the 3 injections. This is what the box will look like. So just open the box. So you can see you have 3 powders and 3 fluids. So you just need one of each for each injection. The little blue top has the fluid and the brown top has the powder. The lids are fixed on and you just need to flip them off by putting your thumb underneath and just pushing. So as such. And you'll see there's a little rubber bung underneath each of those. So now we need to just prepare our syringe. Open the syringe from the packet. You might find that you have a syringe that actually has some threading around the top there. If you do, the needles that you will have been given will also have a thread, and then you just screw them on. But if you have the plain needles like this, they just push on. Take the top off the big green needle and you're going to grab your bottle of solvent first. These little bottles are pressurized, so you do just need to put some air into the bottle first to break that vacuum, and then you should find that you can draw up the fluid easily. So to do that, just draw back to the 1 ml mark on your syringe, just to the air. Push the needle straight through the middle of the rubber bung and push the air in. And now you can leave the needle in and you can just withdraw all of the fluid. The needle is long enough to reach to the bottom of the ampules, so you shouldn't then have any issues drawing up the fluid. All the way until you have no fluid left in your bottle. Each bottle of solvent contains 1 ml, so that's what you should have in your syringe. At the moment, you don't have to worry about getting rid of any air because you're not ready to inject. Using the same needle and syringe, you're going to push the needle straight through the middle again of the powder bottle. You can see the little cake of powder at the bottom. Slowly squirt the fluid in, and as you do so, you'll see that little cake of powder dissolve almost instantly. Just push it in slowly, push it all the way in till all your fluid is gone. You may just need to swirl it gently to just completely dissolve it, and it'll be clear. Now I'm leaving the needle in, and I am now just withdrawing all of the fluid. Again, the bottle is the same size as the fluid bottle, so the needle will reach right to the bottom. And I'm just slowly drawing back on my plunger to withdraw all of the fluid. Okay. If you find that when you've pulled it out, you still have fluid remaining in the bottle, you can go back in again to get more fluid out. I'm just making a little bit of room in my syringe so I would get rid of any excess air, and then you can go back in again, straight through the middle, and just suck up any remaining fluid in there. And when you've done that, you should have 1 ml of fluid in your syringe. Now it's quite possible that you might have some air bubbles or some little bubbles gathered around the top of the fluid line. So just give the syringe a few flicks, or you can tap it to get rid of those air bubbles. But the excess air, all of this, we need to get rid of that before you inject. So you're going to just very slowly push the plunger with the needle facing upwards. You'll see the fluid level rise, and by the time I get to the 1 ml mark on the syringe, I should have all fluid. There may be a few little air bubbles that attach themselves to the top of the plunger. Again, you can give them a few little taps or flicks to get rid of them, but tiny little ones that are stubborn and won't go, it's perfectly okay to inject with those. But you want to be sure that the rest of it is just fully fluid. Now you're ready to inject, so you need to just put the cap on the big needle to get rid of that safely. Then you will open your other needle. That will be a grey coloured packaging. It's a 27 gauge needle. Again, it's either going to screw on, depending on the type of syringe and needle you've got, or just push on firmly like that. To inject into your skin, you just need to grab a pinch of your fat below the belly button line on either side. Holding the pinch, give your tummy a wipe with one of the alcohol swabs. Take the cap off your needle, hold the pinch, and then you can inject the solution either at a 90-degree angle or on a 45-degree angle. It won't matter too much because it's only going into the subcutaneous layer. So in, push the needle all the way in under the skin, and then slowly push the plunger in. Count to 5 so that you're not pushing it in too fast. And then when the plunger is fully all the way in and there's no fluid left in your syringe, just hold it for a couple of seconds just to maximize the fluid going in. And then you can take the needle and syringe out, and you would drop this into your sharps container. This demonstration is to show you how to give yourself Pregnyl 7,500 unit dose. You will still need both of your boxes of Pregnyl 5,000 units. So when you open those, you'll find that each box contains 1 bottle of the solvent or fluid and 1 bottle of the powder. Your bottles of Pregnyl 5,000 have a yellow cap, but for today's demonstration purposes, my bottles of powder have the brown caps. But the dosage instruction is still the same. So I'm just going to pop those to one side. You need both of the bottles of powder with only 1 bottle of solvent. So you have 3 bottles. You flip the lids off all of them. So you just put your thumb underneath the rim just so that you can lever it off. Push like that. 1, there's the solvent, powder, and powder. You need to open your syringe, and depending on what type of syringe you have, yours might have a little screw tip on the end, and you would also find that your needle then probably also has a screw on the inside, and if that's the case, you just screw them together. But if you just have the plain ones like these, they just push on. Just push on firmly. Take the lid off. And what we need to do first is just depressurize the bottle of solvent, so to make it easier to draw up the fluid. So to do that, you just need to inject 1 ml of air into the bottle of solvent. So just draw the syringe back to the 1 ml mark like this, and with your bottle of solvent, just slowly push the needle through, right through the middle of the rubber bung, and just push that ml of air in, and that should make it easier for you to draw up the fluid. The needle's long enough to reach to the bottom, so you should be able to get it up in the one go. And I'm doing this by just pulling back on the plunger, and now I have 1 ml of fluid in my syringe. I'm going to push that, squirt that into the first bottle of Pregnyl 5,000 units. Again, you use the same needle, and you're just going to put that right through the middle of the rubber bung, and then just slowly squirt the fluid directly into the powder, which will almost instantly have started to dissolve. You may need to swirl it around if you don't think that it's fully dissolved. Okay, and now I'm just going to draw that all back up into my syringe, again with the needle being able to reach into the bottom of the jar, the ampule. Okay. And at this point, you probably have quite a few air bubbles just like that, but that's okay because you're not ready to inject yet. So now you're going to squirt the made up solution of 5,000 units into the second bottle of Pregnyl 5,000 units. Again, same needle, same syringe, right through the middle of the rubber bung, and just slowly squirt that onto the powder, and you can see that that instantly starts to dissolve. If you want to swirl it around just to make sure that it's completely dissolved, you can do that. all the way in. And now just withdraw it. Just pulling back gently on the plunger till every drop is dissolved, every drop has been sucked up. So by this stage you should have 3 empty ampules, having drawn up both of the powders with 1 bottle of fluid. Now there's a few little air bubbles just gathered around the bottom there, so again, might just need to give that a few little flicks. And then I'm going to just slowly start to get rid of the excess air up the top of the syringe before we are ready to inject. So just slowly push on the plunger. You'll see the fluid levels start to rise. We've still got a few little air bubbles which we'll get rid of in a second. But by the time you get to the top, your syringe should be at the 1 ml mark because you've only used 1 bottle of fluid which contains 1 ml. There's some tiny little air bubbles still stuck to the top of the plunger. You can give those a few little flicks like this. And then you're ready to inject. So put the cap back on the needle and you'll either twist it off or just pull it off like that. Drop that into your sharps container. The other needle ready to go is the little 27 gauge needle with the grey packaging. Again, it's either going to screw on or it's just going to push firmly on. Take the cap off. Now, our dose today is 7,500 units. So at the moment, we've got 10,000 units. So before we inject, we're just going to squirt a little bit of the fluid out to the 0.8 ml mark on the syringe. The syringes aren't finely graded enough to get to 0.75, so you're actually going to just be injecting 0.8 of a ml. If you count down from the 0.5, each line is 0.1 of a ml. So this is 0.6, 0.7 and 0.8. So I'm just going to very slowly squirt that out. Now my syringe is on the 0.8 ml mark and you're ready to inject. Into the tummy, just like you have done previously with your other injections, you're just going to grab a pinch of your flesh below the belly button to either side, left or right, it doesn't matter. Give your tummy a wipe and then on either a 90-degree or a 45-degree angle, just push the needle all the way in under your skin and slowly push the fluid in. Just do a slow count all the way in. Hold it for another couple of seconds just to maximize it being absorbed in. And then take that out and then you'll throw the needle and syringe away. But just to show you once again, you will have started at the 1 ml mark, but you are going to actually be getting rid of a couple of little lines worth before you inject. So by the time you're ready to inject, you'll be injecting 0.8 of a ml. Okay, and that's how to do Pregnyl 7,500 units. Now I'm going to show you how to give a 10,000 unit of Pregnyl injection for an IVF trigger. You will have 2 boxes of Pregnyl 5,000 units. Each box has a single dose. So open both of your boxes. Each box contains 1 powder and 1 solvent. For the 10,000 unit injection, you will need to use 2 bottles of powder with 1 bottle of solvent. So take out the bottles of powder and 1 bottle of fluid. So 2 bottles of Pregnyl 5,000 powder with 1 solution. You do not need the other solution. For today's purposes, I'm using a different bottle of the powder, but the principle is still the same. Remember, yours will have yellow tops. Okay. Again, we need to flip the lids off these little canisters. Just put your thumb under the rim and just push. And you will see that you've got a rubber bung. little grey piece of rubber underneath. So 2 powders and 1 bottle of solvent. Okay. Open your needles. The syringe that you have may have the threading on it, and the corresponding needles also may have a thread. If you have this type of syringe and needle, you just need to screw them onto each other. If you have the plain ones, then they just push onto each other. So you are opening the green, larger needle first, 21 gauge. Push that on. We're going to draw up the solvent first. So just take the cap off the needle. These little bottles of solvent are pressurized, so you will just need to push some air into the bottle of water first, and that way you'll find it a lot easier to draw up the fluid. So just pull your syringe back to the 1 ml mark, like that, and then just slowly inject the air into the bottle of water. That should depressurize it, and then you should easily be able to draw up the fluid. Again, the needle reaches right to the bottom, so you should be able to draw it up all in one go. When you've drawn up all of the fluid, you can discard that bottle of fluid. Now I have 1 ml of fluid in my syringe. I'm going to squirt that fluid into the first bottle of Pregnyl 5,000 units of powder. Just slowly, right through the middle of the rubber bung, push the needle in and just slowly push the fluid in. And you will note that that powder at the bottom has almost instantly dissolved. You may just need to swirl it to ensure that it's fully dissolved. Now with the same needle in the bottle, I'm then just going to withdraw all of that fluid. Again, you might just have to turn the bottle on its side a little bit to scoop up all of the fluid. So now I've got 1 bottle of powder mixed with my solvent. You can see at the moment that it's full of air and bubbles. That's okay, because you're not ready to inject yet, because we only have 5,000 units and we need 10,000 units. So you are going to squirt the made up solution into your second bottle of Pregnyl 5,000 powder. Again, just right through the middle of the rubber bung, like so. Push. And then just slowly push your already made up solution onto the second bottle of powder. And again, just let that dissolve. It'll almost dissolve instantly. You might need to just give it a few swirls around. And again, if there's a little bit of pressure in there, you can leave the needle in. Just push the plunger back in. Okay, and now you're just going to slowly withdraw all of the fluid. Just scoop it all up. When you've drawn all of the fluid out of the bottle, again, you'll see that you've probably got a lot of bubbles in there, so we need to get rid of those before you're ready to inject. The way to do that, just give it a few flicks. I'm flicking the syringe, tap it. Again, you'll see that there's a big hunk of bubble there. Once I start to push the plunger up, you might see that it starts to pick up some of those bubbles and they start to dissolve. So I'm just doing this very slowly, and then a final flick at the top should get rid of all of those bubbles. I'm going to turn the syringe around so that you can see that as I'm pushing, I want that right on the 1 ml mark. Now again, we'll just get rid of a few of those extra bubbles. So sometimes it takes a little while like that just to get rid of them, but that is okay. All right, you don't have to inject it the second that you've prepared it. So now I have 1 ml of fluid, but I have used 2 bottles of powder to give myself the 10,000 unit dose. So just before you inject, put the lid on the needle tip so that you can take that off safely. Drop that into your sharps container. Open your tiny needle, which is the grey packaging. It's a 27 gauge needle. And again, you're either going to screw it on or you're going to push it on. Okay, and then you're going to take the top off the needle tip. Pushed it on too hard. There we go. inject into your tummy. So underneath your belly button to either the left or the right, you're going to grab a pinch of skin, give it a wipe with one of your alcohol swabs. Then you're going to push the needle all the way in while you hold the pinch of skin. And then you're just going to slowly inject the fluid. Count to 5 as you do so. And then when it's in, just hold it for a couple of seconds. Take the needle out and then pop it straight into your sharps container.